Hello, welcome. Hello. Okay, we have a few attendees already joining. A little bit early, we're starting this. Hi guys, welcome.
Hi, I realized Christian's going to be speaking too.
Yes, yep.
Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tonight actually. It's going to be tonight for us, yeah. Hello everyone, welcome. Good afternoon, no, good morning. Good morning, welcome. We have a lot of people joining. How was your day today, Kazuna?
It was good. I've actually, my sleep schedule has kind of been a bit weird. So I would go to bed at 8 a.m. and then wake up.
Yeah, I noticed because I try not to send messages to you when it would be too late for you, but then you respond at 3 a.m. your time.
Also, Voice of Japan has been doing different initiatives, so I would be awake so that I would be able to communicate with them. And I try to my team more, and also my family's there. So
right. Yeah. Is your family okay?
Yeah, they're in Japan. They're in quarantine as well.
Great. Okay, welcome everyone. So it's 11:01. I'm going to get started. Again, welcome. My name is Reina. I think I've met many of you in past webinars we've done this week. And this is an interview with a global leader, Kazuna Yamamoto. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you as well.
So let me just briefly read your profile, and I know I'm missing a lot of information, so I'd like you to add on to it after I read this. Kazuna Yamamoto is the founder and director of Educate For, an international organization that works to combat educational inequality around the world. Educate For has teams in Peru, Chile, and Japan to provide access to quality education through international cooperation. Kazuna also made headlines in 2019 when she led an online petition protesting the Japanese tabloid magazine Shukan SPA and SPA's article that ranked women's universities on how easy it is to convince female students to have sex. Thank you very much for joining, Kazuna, again. And can you also speak about your work with Voice Up Japan?
Yes, so what you said about the Shukan SPA, the petition, after I launched the petition, I started Voice of Japan. Right now we are incorporated as a Itpan Shadan Hojin in Japan with about 25-30 members from adults. Also, it's a mixture of adults, students, Japanese people, non-Japanese people. It's just a mixture of people. And right now we're working on different initiatives to just voice up about all of the gender-based violence or just gender discrimination in the Japanese society. And what we try to do is be inclusive in terms of trying to our team is very diverse, for example, because I feel in Japan, for example, it's very difficult to participate in advocacy if you don't speak the language. But what we try to do is to let more people be part of our team. So our team is from 10, 11 different countries, but that also brings in the uniqueness. Right now, we've worked to organize petitions and projects so that we can talk about the sexual violence law in Japan, the criminal law about sexual violence and sexual assault. We've turned in petitions to the Minister of Justice and whatnot. And we're currently preparing for our next projects.
Right, yeah, as you say, sort of advocacy and petitioning aren't really sort of maybe concepts that are as practiced in Japan as they are in other countries. So it's great that you're leading this sort of initiative. And I think recently I saw that you started a petition against Takashi Okamura. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, we started a petition because recently on Midnight Radio, he was reading comments or emails he's received from the people listening to his radio, and then he received someone saying that, I'm bummed because of the situation. I can't go to, for example, go visit sex workers or go into prostitution, for example. And then what he said was oh, but wait a bit, because after the corona situation is over, there's going to be more people that are kind of young girls that are desperate because of economic complications, and then they're going to have to work in these places, so you'll just see a lot of new faces. And then because a lot of members of Voice of Japan are also students, and also I think the Asahi newspaper did a research saying that about 20% of the students are actually considering dropping out of university because they can't afford it anymore. So like in that situation, I felt like what he said was very discriminatory and also kind of like looking down, and kind of it was just like I felt like there's a lot of problems. And then as Voice of Japan, our members were also like very hurt from what he said. And so we decided to start a petition, and right now we're working so that we can hopefully like talk with him or talk with like people related to him, his agency, so that we can try to try to do something with all of these like discrimination or sexualization of women or like minorities in Japan.
Right. You know, a pessimist might ask, you know, how is starting an online petition going to ever change things? It's not going to shut down his radio show. It's not going to shut down like a publication or tabloid publication company like Shukan Spa. But I mean, what else would be the first step, you know, is what I would wonder. So,
And then
great.
I think also what can happen is like when people start talking about it, I think with this petition, we were able to like open up the eyes of more people. A lot of people were like, oh, I didn't realize this was discrimination until you guys pointed it out. I think, and that way we're able to like gradually raise awareness.
Right. When you say something publicly that is, you know, discriminatory, there has to be consequences, and this is part of the consequences of, yeah. Great. Okay. So Kazuna, you're joining us from Santiago, Chile. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Chile, in South America.
So what are you doing in Chile?
Right now I'm doing a startup with my business partners. We're working in like blockchain. We're developing blockchain technologies for the financial industry. So it's kind of like very different from what I've been doing in the past.
I see. But you're still working with Educate For and Voice of Japan?
Exactly. Yeah. Educate For, I have like my team that is like focusing there. So I would like talk to them once a week maybe, or twice a week. Like
great.
Full time I'm working on this company here.
Okay. So maybe we can start with something I'd be very curious to know. How has COVID-19 impacted Chile or Santiago, and how has it impacted your life, both personal life and professional life?
Well, I think the COVID has definitely affected Santiago because we're on lockdown. We're like, the whole country is not on lockdown, but a lot of countries are on, like a lot of regions are on lockdown. And for example, here, military power is they're able to enforce military power. So there are military on the street, there are police on the street. If you're living in, for example, certain cities that are in full quarantine, you're not allowed to leave. You have to get an online permission, for example, if you want to go to the supermarket or walk your dog. But still, yeah, the first few weeks was tough, honestly. I'm on like week 8 of quarantine now.
Week 8? Oh my God.
It was actually very difficult for me because I was in Peru in like mid-March for a project with Educate For, and I got there, and then some students and like young adults got to Peru to do our project with us, and the day after they arrived, the president just declared we're closing all borders. And Educate For was stuck in Peru for like 4 or 5 weeks because they closed the borders. Like they didn't even let people leave the country. And then I was like, I needed to get back, so I just ran to the airport. I just figured out, and then I was able to leave and like come back to Chile. But there's a lot of people still inside Peru like right now that aren't able to leave. And then I escaped from Peru, and on the 15th of March arrived to Chile, have been in quarantine since.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ow.
It's been difficult. Yeah.
You're saying people who aren't even like from Peru, who were just visiting that country for the project, are now have been stuck in the country for weeks without.
They left 2 weeks ago because the Embassy of Japan organized a flight.
Okay.
But there's still a lot of people stuck, and a lot of Peruvians stuck outside of Peru that can't go back to their country.
So how do they survive? I mean, in terms of like housing, access to their funds, food, clothing.
They already had like a place they were staying, and they allowed us to stay longer. But they told me that food was a bit more complicated because it was very difficult to go to the supermarket even. So for example, they were staying at a hostel, like a guest house. So whenever they would need to get something, only the person of the hostel can go get it. So they would get everything like for all the people living there. And there were like 30 people in the same house.
Oh my God. You mentioned that you need like an online permission, or
There's
so
like, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm just clarifying. So you go to like some kind of website set up by the government and you request going outside for whatever purpose from what time to what time, and then like get some sort of slip or something?
It's very easy, actually. It's like, it just, you go online, you put your, like, it's like the social security number, but like the Chilean version, you put that in, and then you just put like, for example, the purpose. And then I would put like to go to the supermarket or to deliver food to someone. And then it just automatically, like, you can get it on your phone. Actually, it's very like more advanced, because what I remember is in Japan, if I wanted to get any permission from the police, I would have to go there physically, and it was kind of like very hard. But in Chile, I go online, put in my security number, have it done in 2 minutes, probably.
And then you get an approval and you get some kind of like receipt or something. And then when you go outside, if you're ever stopped by the military or the police, you just show them
Exactly.
Oh, I see. Wow. Oh my God. So it sounds like it's impacted your life a lot. But how about in terms of your work? You said you're working on a startup project, but how has COVID-19 impacted your professional life?
I feel like it's been harder because as our company, our business model is we help out companies that are trying to raise capital, and then we would connect them with investors. We use blockchain technology to kind of automate that and make it more secure. But it's been more difficult because a lot of companies are now like, their business models aren't working anymore. For example, it's not gonna, and then for the next year, probably a lot of companies aren't gonna have a solid income, and that changes everything. And then more like investors are also like being more conservative because they don't want to spend money, because they're saying that this is gonna be one of the biggest financial crises like in history. That's why I feel like it's a more complicated situation.
Definitely. Yeah. Purses are definitely tighter, I think, in many countries. People are trying to save money. Businesses are trying to save money. But is the government providing any sort of financial aid to citizens or SMEs?
Kind of, but kind of not. It's kind of like, it's kind of still difficult in that area because the government is more focused on also, for example, if someone gets unemployed, they would cover 70% of their like their income, for example. But at this moment, like I think there are certain measures, but it's not like open. It's not like all the SMEs get a credit, but there are lowering like credits and like interest rates so that people can go to the bank and get like interest free, for example, lending or whatnot.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Well, I hope you're okay. And it sounds like you're doing well, though. You sound very like sort of energetic.
I think, yeah, the first like I think week 2 or week 3 was the toughest. It was like very like emotionally and mentally very hard, especially because my family was on the other side of the world.
Right.
But now it's like I kind of got used to it. It's just like another day for me.
Is there anything specifically you do to keep your sort of mood up or keep yourself motivated?
I try to study more recently because I finished university last year and I've been working ever since, but I've always felt like I wanted to keep studying. Like in the future, I do kind of want to like go back to studying, but then I know that I'm not going to be leaving the house for probably like another year. I'm not going to be traveling. I'm not going to be like going out to just like hang out with friends too much. So I was like, maybe just use this time to focus on like myself in a sense.
Great. Yeah. Self-development, self-growth. What specifically are you studying?
I'm trying to learn how to program because I always have ideas. I'm using Code Academy to learn programming, and then I'm using Coursera. They have a lot of online courses. Some are free even. So I've been studying like stats, gender, politics, just taking a lot of classes from different universities because I'm like knowledge is definitely an asset and it's something that you can't really like lose.
In my case, I do try to, study and use this time because I have so much time now to further my learning and take courses online. But in terms of getting that motivation to do so, I feel like for me, I need to have some sort of like end goal to acquire this knowledge, like something I'm going to use it for. And with the future so uncertain, you can't really set very clear goals. But in your case, how do you sort of drive yourself to keep on studying, keep on acquiring new knowledge and not waste any time?
I think I can't really say I'm not wasting time because sometimes I'm just on Netflix, for example, for a few hours. Like, I'm doing that a lot too. But for me, I feel like this situation's gonna probably go on for maybe, I would say minimum like 1 year, 2 years. That's how like I look at it, so that I'm not gonna be like more depressed if it goes longer. But I try to see myself like more focus on like my pet, like what I'm gonna be doing in 5 years or 10 years, like the long term.
Looking way ahead. Okay, interesting.
And also I have like projects I've always wanted to do. Like I always like to start new things. There's like an app I want to develop, there's a product I want to develop. So now I'm just like maybe just prepare for all that so that when I'll be like ready with everything. So when the situation gets better, I can just like boom, launch something.
That's a great idea. Maybe just even like listing everything you've ever wanted to do but never had the time to do, brainstorming that list first, and then just going through it and being like, well, I can do this, and just like clearing it one by one. Yeah, might be a great way to spend the time. Okay. Something else I was curious about was in Japan, there was a little bit of, I read a little bit of articles stating that, now that people are cooped up inside, domestic violence might be increasing. And, people can't even go outside to the police or to, institutions or organizations where they can reach out to. So that sort of domestic violence rate or violence in the household, the rate for that in general may be increasing. But since, your work is with DV and sexual violence and protecting the victims and giving them their voice, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about this and if you noticed any changes in Chile as well.
I think the case about domestic violence has been going on just like all over the world now. I read also in Chile, I think it's tripled or quadrupled, but
really?
I'm very certain it's getting like, it's exponentially growing. It's not a linear growth. So every day it's getting worse, basically, in terms of the situation with domestic violence. And honestly, for me, it's just, I think it's a new realization that makes me feel like a lot of people were saying in this coronavirus situation to like make them feel better. They would say, okay, at least I have a roof on my head, or at least I have food on my plate. But then it's like a new realization thinking that the fact that I'm safe in a house, because there are a lot of people that have a roof on their head, but they're not even safe. They could, and that's not only for women, it can be men, it can be for children as well. I think I have to really like understand that that's something not taken for, like, I shouldn't take that for granted, that I feel safe, like emotionally and physically. And that's something that we have to like advocate for more, because I feel like many times domestic violence can be seen as something just like a house problem. I think that happens a lot in Japan, that because it's something that happens inside the house, it's like we're not gonna like step inside that like problem. But I think that's something that the society has to try to fight against. Personally, I'm trying to raise more awareness. I've tried to like donate some money to organizations that work with young girls or like women in Japan and outside.
Great, yeah. In like a situation like a lockdown, especially in the case of Chile, because the lockdown is so strict and stringent, many of these women, maybe they can't even go outside, right? If they have to like request permission to even just take a walk. So is the Chilean government or local organizations like setting up places where women can go if they're experiencing any?
I think it's still difficult. They're trying. They've been trying to mention it, but the problem there's so many problems at this moment that I think it's just been difficult, because it's only been 2 months since the COVID-19 like arrived. The first case was found in Chile, and it's been exponentially growing as well. And then a lot of people are saying that when it gets colder, like the COVID situation gets worse, and Chile's like it's getting colder every day too. So then they have to prepare for like already like economically it's going down. They're already saying that like the hospitals are going to collapse soon. In terms of that, I think they're trying, but honestly, there's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, this issue is at the forefront of every country's, issue list. And so when something like this comes at the forefront and all like 90% of the focus is on that, then everything that we focused on before and all the progress we made, I feel like is kind of stopping a little bit. But that's kind of a pessimistic view as well. But do you have any sort of like positive outlook about how COVID-19 can maybe positively impact Chile or Japan in terms of dramatically changing old systems or old ideas and so on?
I think Chile, I was actually surprised because even in terms of the permissions, it's very fast. It's like a 2-minute process, for example, that can be done online, which sadly I feel like in Japan, not a lot of things are automized yet, or it's not online. Like I think in Chile, the good thing is that's why they're trying to like focus more on like fintech, or like the Chilean government is trying to like look for more startups that can combat the COVID-19 situation. So I think in that terms, like, and also I think Chile doesn't have a national healthcare system like Japan. They have a public healthcare system and a private healthcare system, and it's mandatory to be in one or the other. But you don't have, in Japan, for example, everyone has to be in the public one. So I think in that sense, people are trying to like, that might change, it might not, but I feel like it could change, because in crises like this, even people with a private healthcare system that are better off are going to be affected by the people that don't have the healthcare system, because it's something that if they pass by someone who doesn't get proper healthcare, they get affected, you know. So I think in terms of that, in Chile, I feel like that it could have an effect on the situation about like the healthcare system. It could have an effect on maybe like more promoting fintech or promoting more telework. Like I do know that 2 or 3 weeks ago, the government of Chile passed a law so that like kind of companies have to do more of like the telework. But I think Japan has more like things that to improve. Hopefully more people are interested in politics after this, because I personally am not very like I don't know, satisfied with how the government has been responding, especially comparison to like our neighboring countries like Taiwan or South Korea, who has been leading examples. And I hope that this kind of opens up the eyes of more people to like be more interested in politics, because I think in the coronavirus situation, the like politics has a direct impact on our lives. I feel like politics feels close to our lives more than ever. But also I do hope that more things get automized. Like, for example, why do we have to go to the company just to put a hanko? Like, I think that's so very, very like not efficient, you know? Like those things, hopefully more things get automized, more things get like, I don't know, people are more flexible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we and most of the participants for in this webinar, we're in Japan, you know, and this is our base, this is our world. So it's difficult to see the Japanese government's response objectively, meaning like comparing it with other countries, and you know, also because like COVID-19 has spread in a different way in every country, so the responses should be different too. But since you are based in Chile and you are able to sort of see Japan a little bit more objectively, I think, have you noticed anything like unique about Japan's response, either good things or bad things, when compared with Chile, or as you say, Taiwan, South Korea, China?
I feel like things are still very slow in Japan. I realized usually, you know, people say the more like homogenous the decision making, like the circle is, things are faster. But unfortunately, although I feel like Japan's decision making like group, the people in power are very like, it's very limited. It's not very diverse, but it's very slow. And I feel like but also at the same time, what I realized is in Chile, one of the permissions you get, it says specifically for households with children with, like, for example, autism, that can't just like be closed inside the house. There's a special permission for example, kids with autism, so that they can leave the house, and that exists. But I remember 2 or 3 days ago when Prime Minister Abe was asked that, like, a news reporter, I think, asked him what families with like autistic kids are supposed to do, because you can't like keep a kid trapped in, and he didn't really like even have an answer. So I felt like in Japan they're not really able to see like the minority perspective still.
Right. It's not.
Yeah. Like, for example,
it's not even a consideration, you know.
Exactly. Like, what does a girl do, for example, if she needs to get a day after pill, a Plan B pill? Like, that's still a big problem there. Or like somebody that needs to get an abortion. Those kind of things I feel like are also very important, but it's not talked about. And that I felt very strongly in terms of Japan.
Right.
Because I feel like other countries were also focusing, like taking special measures for different types of like minority groups or social groups.
Right. Hopefully with this experience, behind us one day, we're able to sort of do a retrospective and figure out what worked, what didn't work, not just at the country level, but also individual level, business levels, and then do a full audit of, steps that were taken and what was beneficial, what was detrimental, and then create some sort of roadmap or strategy or game plan for when something similar happens, regardless of whether it's a virus or not. And we definitely do need this at the country or government level too. Okay, great. So Kazuna, one thing I also wanted to get your thoughts on was in terms of communication. So as a professional, I'm sure you have to communicate with your team members, and you have various organizations that you're involved with and various events that you're leading. How do you feel about the importance of communication, and how has communication or your style of communication changed throughout the past few weeks?
I think communication is just like a key, and in situations like this, it becomes more crucial, because even within the company, for example, we've tried to be communicating more, but unfortunately, it doesn't go as much as like we expect, and then it just becomes like a small fight within the company, like, but you said this last time, no, you said that. So for example, we've tried to implement like daily meetings, like daily briefings in the morning every day, just so that we can be on the same page. Because I think everyone's working individually. It's like people get like used to just working on their own schedule or not sharing things. And even at the organization, like I think our organization, like in terms of Voice Up, for example, we do like talk a lot within the organization. There's different like groups on like Messenger, just constantly talking about something. But definitely it's been a key. And I think without it, it gets more difficult, especially because like you can't really, if you don't call the person, you can't see the person. People can interpret things in a different way. That's also like something big we've like realized, that people can like interpret things a different way than what I thought I was saying, and then in the end it's, like, builds disputes, confusions.
So to avoid that, you try to frequently communicate with people, maybe be even more sort of detailed about what your thoughts are and what you're asking of them. Yeah. I think in my case, I've tried to be a lot more positive. I think I'm using a lot more exclamation marks, only because I can't see people. I can't have that interaction. So as you say, I want to make sure my tone comes across as positive, especially because everyone is also in lockdown too. So I think I try to put in a lot more like maybe emojis or exclamation marks, or even if I do request something, I try my best to be a little bit softer and more like, appreciative of the other person as well. Okay.
I think it's very important, yeah.
Great. So what would, last question before I open it up for participants, attendees questions. What advice would you give for professionals in Japan, or outside of Japan too, who are kind of in lockdown and have so much time on their own for themselves? What advice would you give them to further their learning, continue their global communication training, and make sure that they don't just waste the time that they have?
I would say like I think it gets very frustrating, or it's very hard if everyone focuses on the short term, because this pandemic it's definitely not a short term like problem. I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, we're just gonna end quarantine, but I doubt that this is gonna be over in the next few months. I think it's gonna definitely go on longer. So I think people just have to look forward to all the things that they like. I think it's just good if people start like listing up what they want to do afterwards. To look for something, but at the same time start listing the things, like the small things that they appreciate in their lives, because no matter how we're in difficult situations, there's also a lot of people in more difficult situations. And I think by realizing and like acknowledging the small things in life that are very like that we should be appreciating, for me that helped a lot. But at the same time, like one of the most important things out of all is to like not to be too hard on yourself, because the first few months I was very focused on like being productive, trying to do things I couldn't, and I was kind of in a very like emotionally hard space. Then a friend like shared on Instagram how, for example, all of our expectations, or like even in terms of productivity, all of our expectations we've built is has been like built in a society where we didn't have to deal with this basically. So now it's a complete different society. We're in a complete different, like the world is not working the same way as it used to. So it's normal for us to not be the same way we were 2-3 months ago or like a year ago. We're gonna have more emotions. It's gonna be like more difficult. I think, of course, like it's important to be productive, to like keep aiming like for your best, but also if one person is too hard on themselves and they can't forgive themselves, it's just going to take a toll on not only them but on everyone, you know. So I think being like trying to like be a bit more like not like kind but like loose on yourself. I think it's definitely
I mean, that's definitely one thing. You take this time to give yourself some slack and, you know, take some time to love yourself and maybe, you know, relax a little bit. And it would be a good opportunity to increase your self-awareness as well. Like, who am I? What really are my strengths? What do I want to focus on in my career, in my life? And do just a full audit of yourself is also another great way to spend your time. Great.
And, like, really, you can realize what are like important values, what matters to you.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much, Kazuna. Very actionable advice and recommendations. So I'd like to open it up for attendees. If you have any questions to Kazuna, please use the Q&A tool and I will be able to ask them. Feel free to ask anything. So while people are typing in, what are your plans for the next few weeks? Do you have any sort of immediate goals or plans?
Next few weeks, I hope to honestly, I don't read a lot of books. That's something I've been trying to like get back to. I think I'm going to do more research, for example, like in the next 5-6 years, I do want to go to like grad school, for example. So maybe research on that, learn another language, but just take things slow.
Do you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Because I was wondering, it must be so, you know, stressful if you don't have a good grasp of the language and then you're in lockdown in a foreign country. But
I work in Spanish, like work-wise, everything is in Spanish actually. So
great. Okay. Wow, trilingual. Ken is asking, Kazuna, how do you keep your mind positive in this situation? Do you have any sort of advice? How to maintain positive mindset?
For me, like sometimes I do feel like I just want to cry, just like for like a few hours, but then I tell myself it's okay. Like I try to like anything that happens, I tell myself it's okay. If, for example, and I tell myself I'll be okay too. Like those are kind of 2 words I tell myself. If I'm having a bad day, it's okay. Like I'm allowed to just cry. I'm allowed to want to like stay at home and watch Netflix all day, and I'm not gonna like punish myself or feel bad to do that, because if I start doing that, it's just gonna be like more negative. It's okay if I want to do something, if I want to eat something, and then it's kind of like we're in a different situation. So just like you said about like cutting myself some slack. I think moving my body has definitely been helpful, because like I'm in a dance team here, so what we do is twice a week we go online and we like do practice online.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and a lot of Chilean dance companies too have started doing online classes. So I've tried to do those things because I think definitely like moving your body physically helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you know, your point about it's okay to be negative too. I guess you don't need to force yourself to stay positive all day, every day for every week. You need to have some lows to have some highs. So when you do feel like crying, when you do feel like just not doing anything, then accept that feeling, own that emotion, and just
allow yourself to do that. Yeah.
Great. Okay. We have another question. Do you see anything culturally unique and creative that local people are doing in Chile to make themselves feel happy and positive?
Culturally unique and
for example, I think for Italy, I saw like a video of people gathering on their balconies and with anything that they can use to make sound, and they play music together from their balconies. But in terms of Chile, have you noticed anything? Have you seen anything, heard anything?
I do know that like definitely depending on like certain like parts of the city, they like applaud for like the people, like the like medical staff and everything. But like culturally, I don't know.
What would you say is like compared to, and I know we're generalizing here, but I mean, this is a general discussion, compared to Japanese culture maybe, or Japanese sort of people's values, innate personalities, how would you describe Chilean values and personalities?
I think Chilean people like value their life more sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Value their life more. Uh-huh.
Yeah, for example, like I feel like in Japan, a lot of times people are living, like they live their life to work harder and harder. But I feel like people in Chile are working for their life, working like they're working so that they can have some fun or like do what they want to do, spend time with their family. But I feel like when I'm in Japan, it's like people are living, but like their purpose is to work. But I think that's not a bad thing too, because I do like to work, but I still like to enjoy my life. But sometimes when I'm in Japan, I don't see a lot of people like enjoying their life. Like here, I would just see a lot of people are like, I feel like more people are cooking in Chile. They try to make like traditional Chilean dishes. Like I'm living with my friend, but she's definitely cooking more like sometimes we would cook a lot of Asian food together. A lot of people I think are drinking more because Chileans do drink a lot too.
Oh, really? What is the drink in Chile? What do people drink?
There's a drink called pisco, which is
Pisco.
like pisco. Some people say it tastes like rum.
Oh, I would like to have some. Okay, great. Yeah. You know, your point about that sort of what do you value more, life or work? I've noticed many of my Japanese friends and, you know, acquaintances saying that they have struggled because their focus was 90% on work all the time. And when that is suddenly reduced and there's more time for life, they suddenly don't know what to do or how to spend their time. But I guess in Chile's case, because there was such high value for enjoying your life and, you know, prioritizing your personal life and personal time, I guess more people are perhaps adjusting better, or they have a lot of things they want to do and they're kind of trying to thrive in this environment as well.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, definitely people are more aware of politics as usual. But Chile has been very, like a lot of people are active politically here already. So.
Oh, in what way? Are they like protesting or are they supporting the government or?
It's kind of like the big movement is against the government. But
okay.
Last October, there had been a lot of protests in Chile from the 16th of October. And then there were protests for about 2 or 3 months straight. I would go, like the first 2 weeks I would be there every day. I got really tired because I'd be there for like 6 hours a day. But there would be people protesting. We weren't allowed to leave the house, for example, after like 8 p.m. for like the first 2-3 weeks.
What were you protesting?
It originally started because the Chilean government decided to like increase the fee of the metro. It was just a trigger to all of the inequality within the country. For example, Chile is the only country that water is private and not public.
Oh.
And then like the minimum wage is very low, but it's still considered an OECD country, but it's very low. It's one of the segregated, like economically segregated countries in the OECD.
Interesting.
Triggering, yeah.
Right. So political engagement, political activity has increased a lot. I guess also because, you know, people have more time, they can finally sort of speak up and sort of organize their voices. We do have another question. So many of the viewers here should be professionals or probably professionals, but I'm curious to know the inner voices of the university students. For example, how they are seeing the current situation, especially they must have a lot of concerns about getting new jobs or getting ready to make value in a new workplace. Do you have anything to share, advice to these kind of students? Not just in Chile, but in Japan as well, this has been an issue.
Definitely. I think, I don't know, it's very difficult because like a lot of my friends and like a lot of the girls I knew or like boys I knew in university, they were doing, for example, their study abroad and they were forced to come back to Japan, for example. I do know some cases of people that just graduated in April was their job and then they just got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Or I do know that the current seniors in university are having a very difficult time because they can't do any of the normal procedures. A lot of companies aren't willing to take a new shinsotsu because it's just very hard to like increase, like expand right now.
Right.
So, but like for all these students, I would say like take it slow still. Like don't blame yourself. I feel like generally when I was in Japan, a lot of people are very focused on graduating in 4 years. Not a lot of people take like gap years just like to focus on themselves. And they're so focused on like, okay, when I'm 22, I have to graduate, I have to find a job, work how many years, get married, for example. There's like, I think in Japan, these like age goals are very like, it's very strong. There's a very strong presence of these like, you have to be this by the time you're this. But honestly, I want to tell them to like it's not their fault, first of all, that they can't find a job. It's very, very difficult. And I'm more scared than that situation. Like I'm more scared that people are going to start like committing suicide, for example, from the. So I would tell them like, I really want to like try to tell them like, it's not your fault. And yes, it's going to be difficult, but it's just like, it's going to be all right. Or we just have to believe that, just think positively in that sense. And also maybe use it as an opportunity to like learn more, to maybe rediscover what they want to do if they want to study something else. Because I do also know that a lot of like students in Japan don't really study what they want to study anyways. And maybe to learn a professional skill is something that I would actually very focus on. Professional skill, like at least learn how to do, for example, accounting, like get the shikaku, kaikeishi or something, or start programming, because those are, from now, like remote work is going to become a key. And I think 5 years ago, Bill Gates also did that TED talk about we're not ready for the next pandemic, and we're obviously not ready. But at the same time, we have to be ready for anything in the future. And those certain skills are definitely going to be helpful for people that want to find a job. So I would say first, like don't blame it, like try to get that emotional stress off of you, but then take it as an opportunity to learn something new that will definitely be something like beneficial for the future.
Excellent. Yeah, like English communication people can learn. Yeah, and as you said before, Code Academy and Coursera and a lot of universities in the US and across the world are opening up their e-learning platforms for free courses and free, skills-based training seminars. So use that to your advantage, definitely, to heighten your skill set and be ready for the post-COVID era. That is good. Yeah. So we're wrapping up right now, unless anyone, we can take maybe one more question. Okay.
Have you seen any interesting initiatives that students?
Right. So have you seen any interesting initiatives that students or, young professionals are trying to do, or to make any new changes in Chilean society?
In Chile, I feel like a lot in Chile has just been more difficult because like a lot of my students are already like working. Not a lot of my friends are like students anymore. But what I do know in Japan is that a few of my friends have tried to like start projects, like social projects, for example, to give back to society because they feel like they really want to do something about it. And I do know a lot of people that have started studying actually as well. I did tell a lot of my like kohais to like start studying different things. But I have and I also have seen a lot of students start doing petitions against their university so that they can get a partial refund, for example, for their tuition.
Right. Okay. So
yeah, that's something I was surprised at because like in the past few years, Japanese, like not a lot of students were very like active, but like not a lot of students I've seen have had such a strong opinion. So like that happened at a lot of different universities was very interesting.
That's great. People are sort of stepping up, speaking out, being more proactive about their views and opinions, and engaging with other people too, and collaborating with other people to make their voices stronger. As you said, that a few years ago, that would not have been like a very sort of, dominant component of maybe student culture in Japan, but that has been increasing and strengthening. Okay, great.
I think I think I have seen more students try to do like startups, like start their own, not only social projects, but like a startup because they're kind of like, okay, I'm going to be in this situation. I'm not going to be able to be able to leave the house. My shukatsu is not going to be as I planned. So a lot of people are like, okay, maybe entrepreneurship might be a step. And I think that's very great. Very,
right, like why not? Why not? If you fail, you fail. That's okay. But why not give it a try? Take a chance.
Exactly.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much, Kazuna, for joining us today. Do you have any last words to our attendees?
Well, I'm guessing a lot of people here are learning English, so I hope like they keep up the motivation, because like definitely after this crisis, one of the things I really want to do is travel again. I love to travel. I had a few plans like for this year, and I definitely do think that learning English will like, it just opens up doors, you know? You get to meet people. Like traveling without speaking in a language is much more difficult than if you speak it. When if you speak the language, you can meet more people, and that's how you like open up your world, by talking to new people, learning about new cultures. So I hope like people take this as an opportunity in a sense, like that they're able to like spend more time on learning English, because they're not going to have time to like go outside or do things that they would usually do.
Absolutely. And I think this is the first step, right? Joining all these webinars and exposing yourself to different content, different languages, different cultures, and just furthering your learning and your knowledge base. Yep. All right. Great. Thank you so much for your time, Kazuna. I know it's getting late in Chile, but stay safe, stay warm, and keep in touch. Thank you so much for your positive words and recommendations today.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening.
All right. Thank you, guys. I am going to be closing this webinar now. See you in other webinars, because we have a very busy day today. All right. Thank you, Kazuna. See you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.